My husband let me open our marriage, then disappeared after I did, leaving me with nothing. My name is Emma, and the love of my life is Oliver. We've been friends for nearly 7 years and in love for over 4. Oliver is my dream partner. Kind, attractive, and financially stable with a good income from his job. He's been a dedicated worker since the age of 14, and he has no regrets about it. He's a real man who enjoys working hard to provide for his family. He grew up by the sea, whereas I come from the capital city. We got married 2 years after meeting, just 1 month after experiencing our first love at the age of 19. My parents were supportive, but his family wasn't initially thrilled about our arrangement. They accused me of trapping him into marriage, even though I was a virgin and had no children. I've also been working diligently, starting at I was 17 when I started working at a hotel reception. Oliver had been in a relationship before, maybe 2, but he only admits to 1. It's a mystery why they blamed me for anything despite the initial blame and some early animosity. They eventually embraced me as family, and we all found happiness in each other's company and trust. Oliver and I have been in love and married for almost 4 years, and we are all very content. I take care of the cooking and cleaning for him. I'm always happy to do whatever he wants in our intimate moments. I never refuse, and we both find immense happiness in each other. He is my ultimate desire in every way, and I wouldn't ask for anything more. This is where things get complicated. I've been working with a man named Doran at the hotel since the beginning. Doran, who is 32, handles maintenance and janitorial tasks for the hotel. Let me make this clear for everyone. I have absolutely no romantic desires or attraction towards Doran. I have absolutely no romantic feelings towards Doran. He's a kind person who's been through a lot. His wife cheated on him and left with their son. It turned out the son wasn't biologically his. Doran, who's not just my friend but also liked by all our colleagues at the hotel, was really upset by this. It was a really tough time for him. He didn't want to go on with life and even took days off work, which was unheard of for someone who'd been at the hotel for 13 years. I was really worried about my friend and coworker, so I started chatting with him at work and suggested we have lunch together every day. We did this with other coworkers in the break room or outside at tables to chat. Doran is convinced that his estranged wife has made him lose his masculinity. He thinks that no woman will ever want him again, which is causing him a lot of distress. I told him that this isn't true at all. I firmly believe that any woman would be lucky to have him as her partner. He is kind, gentle, a good provider, and a loving father to his son. I'll share more about that part of the story later on, having conversations with Doran. Over the past few weeks, I've had an idea. I thought I could help him regain his sense of masculinity and explore a relationship with a different man. I'd never done that before except with my partner, Oliver. This would help me resolve that lingering question in my mind. Then I planned when to approach Oliver with my solution and seek his approval. After we finished dinner and cleaned up, I sat down with Oliver for our discussion. I shared my thoughts and suggestions with him. His response was he burst into laughter and gave me a crazy, incredulous smile. He seemed to think I was joking about all of this. I assured him that I was joking and explained why I believed this could be an ideal solution for both Doran and me. I emphasized that he had nothing to worry about concerning Doran because I had no desire or attraction for him. Oliver became quite upset and stormed away, slamming the bedroom door. However, he didn't lock the door, and I knew what he wanted to say. I wanted to show my love and commitment, so I removed all my clothing and entered the bedroom. He can never resist me, just as I can never resist him. Even after 4 long years, I gave him everything he loves, and we fell asleep together in love and happiness, just as we always are. I waited a day before bringing up my suggestion to Oliver again. I asked him if he'd thought about it and whether he'd give his blessing once more. He firmly stated that he wouldn't and warned that if I went ahead with it anyway, and he said he'd file for divorce and cut off all communication with me. I told him okay, and we watched a movie. Later, I offered him a treat, and we spent the night together on the couch. We were still very much in love. During this time, I noticed that Oliver was distant and preoccupied with something other than our intimate moments or the delicious meals I prepared. He often talked on the phone outside our apartment or in a hushed tone. I had a feeling something was going on in the spare room, but there was nothing I could put my finger on. Days passed, and it was now Sunday. Oliver had gone to religious services, and he was planning to drive to the sea for a 4-day trip with his family. They had a yearly tradition of fishing during this time, which I didn't mind. I understood that he needed to bond with his male companions to maintain his masculine qualities and strength before he left for his trip. I brought up my suggestion once more, and Oliver seemed frustrated but responded, "Emma, you're an adult, and I can't force you on any matter. If you want to be with another man, I can't stop you. I've already expressed my feelings about this." I hugged, kissed, and thanked him for his understanding, but he looked at me strangely before getting in his car and driving away. Before Oliver left, he advised me to remember what he had told me. I expressed my love for him and continued to send affectionate messages and texts that night and the next day. At lunch, I met with Doran and told him my idea. He was surprised and hadn't expected this. He said he couldn't be in a relationship with a married woman. I explained that my husband didn't agree, but I wanted to go ahead with it. Doran thought about my idea all Monday night. He couldn't sleep when we met on Tuesday. He agreed to it, but only if my husband and I were comfortable with it. He said there would be no emotional involvement, just the physical act. I told him I wasn't interested in him at all. He was a nice guy, but I wasn't attracted to him. So on Tuesday night, I went to Doran's place. It was a small house, and we had sex using protection. There was no kissing or anything like that, just some physical contact during the act. It seemed to satisfy Doran quickly. For me, it was just about getting it over with. It wasn't a particularly memorable experience for me, other than checking off a box that evening. I sent a text message to my boyfriend Oliver to let him know everything had gone smoothly. I told him that Doran's self-esteem had been restored and that I'd found the answer to my question. I also told him that I'd never be with another man, only him. It's important to understand that this was a purely physical encounter with the use of protection, devoid of any emotional connection or love. I want to be clear that this was purely physical and didn't involve any emotional connection or love. I was worried about Oliver's reaction, so I texted him to check. He didn't respond that night, so I spent a sleepless night worrying. Thankfully, he texted the next morning to say he'd be back on Saturday instead of Friday. I didn't like the idea of him being away for 2 extra days, but I appreciated his understanding about the encounter. I was grateful to have his love the following day. Doran and I had lunch together, and he was really thankful for the session and for helping him regain his confidence and sense of self. He also told me that he'd been granted 50% custody of his son through the court, despite not being the biological father. I was really happy for him and explained that now that our purpose had been fulfilled, we didn't need to continue meeting individually for lunch or other gatherings. He thanked me and understood. He also told me he wasn't being deceitful. I kept sending Oliver loving texts and intimate photos of myself. His boat had poor service, so he didn't respond much. He was excited to see me on Saturday. I was excited and loved, waiting for him to come back. Unfortunately, this story takes a painful turn on Friday. After a long day at work and shopping for Oliver's favorite foods, I came home I was shocked to see that my apartment was empty and that divorce papers had been left on the counter, along with a note. It said, "Thank you and wish you good luck and success with Doran," and was signed by my husband, Oliver. I was overwhelmed with tears and disbelief, knowing that this decision wasn't his own, but influenced by his family's disapproval of me. Oliver would never willingly do something like this. He had taken away all the furniture, silverware, cups, glasses, and linens, leaving only a single set. The king-sized bed was replaced with a small twin bed, which seemed to have come from his nephew's room. He left me with a small TV and a chair. He also took all the kitchen appliances, but left me with just a saucepan and a frying pan. He even provided paper plates, plastic utensils, paper cups, and basic necessities like toilet paper and paper towels. My only remaining possessions were my clothing, toiletries, and makeup. I tried to call Oliver, but I discovered that he had blocked my number. I called Oliver's mom and sister, but they'd blocked me too. His dad and brother had done the same. It seemed like Oliver had been talking to an attorney during those times when he was away or in the spare room. He'd started this process not long after I'd shared my suggestion, which felt like a deliberate move. I couldn't believe what was happening. I then read the letter included in the divorce agreement, which instructed me to direct all correspondence, and I had conversations with my husband's attorney, but I didn't have any direct contact with him. By the end of the day, I was in tears. I called the attorney to understand what was happening and how I would survive. I told him that I couldn't afford to pay for this apartment on my own. The attorney told me that Oliver had covered the lease payment, including basic utilities for the remaining 3 months on our lease. However, I would need to manage expenses for video service, internet, and cell phone on my own. The attorney also mentioned when the lease expires, Oliver will have terminated it. If I want to stay, I'll have to renew it with the landlord. I'm wondering how I can manage to stay when I can barely afford it. Is this how a man treats the love of his life and a woman who gave him everything, from love in various forms to cooking, cleaning, and running errands? Oliver always had to ask, and he would get whatever he wanted. Now I'm on the edge. Couldn't sleep. The next night and the following day, I decided to visit Oliver at his job site. I was informed that he had taken on a job by the shore and specifically requested to work in that area. He's a skilled concrete worker, one of the best, especially for someone so young. I asked the foreman to let him know I was there and that I loved him. He said he would pass on the message. I'm overwhelmed with grief. It's truly unbearable, like experiencing a death and loss. I told a friend and coworker everything, and she couldn't believe my actions. She's the one who initially suggested the idea when I questioned her about it. She said she mentioned it but never thought you'd actually go through with it. It was just crazy girl talk. The next day, I took a bus to the seaport since I don't drive. I went to my in-laws' home, and although I wasn't exactly welcomed, they allowed me inside. I made a meal and coffee for myself. I told them what had happened and that I love Oliver very much. They were kind, but Oliver's mother said that he doesn't want to see me again and that I should stop contacting him. I said that I couldn't do that because Oliver is my whole world. He was working 100 kilometers away, and his family didn't want me to stay with them, so I had to take the bus back to my empty apartment. I cried the whole way home and kept crying all night. I even had to take some time off work the next day to collect myself. Now I need your help with my question. How can I get my husband's love back and fix this misunderstanding? I'm not looking for judgment or criticism, as I've already received plenty of that in a previous post without any helpful suggestions or actions. All I'm seeking are practical steps to win back my man, the love of my life. I can't continue like this. Your assistance is greatly appreciated. I'd like to address some questions from this group. I believe in God and the sanctity of marriage. Do you? I was not unfaithful to my loving husband. I would never engage in such behavior. It's quite audacious to even suggest that. I do consider myself a good girl. How many 24-year-old women do you know who have only been with one man and had just one other late in session? I can answer that for you. None unless they're nuns. I have no intention of having any kind of relationship with Dor and beyond. Being co-workers, there's no attraction or desire there. What I did for him came from the kindness of my heart. I take pride in helping him, and it's ultimately up to God to judge me, not any of you. No, I will never be with another man in the future. Perhaps you should ask these questions to your own significant other. Why not? Because you don't want to hear the truth. I didn't diminish or disrespect Oliver. You haven't met my husband, so you can't judge his masculinity. I know he's more of a man than anyone here. I haven't told my parents or other family members about the situation, but I'm confident they would be proud of their daughter for doing what's right and helping people selflessly. I'm not interested in engaging in late-night discussions about this. I haven't had any sessions with anyone else in this group. Many of you seem to have negative attitudes. Update 2. I have to provide another update, and it's a sad situation. It's been a month since I've been without my husband, and I feel empty and heartbroken. I've tried to contact him, but he hasn't responded. I've even called him from other people's phones and left messages, but he hasn't returned them. I think he's screening his calls and has never returned any of them, even though I've poured my heart out to him. I even had Doran call Oliver and leave him a message, saying how grateful I am for his kindness and how it saved Doran from a life of misery. Doran told Oliver that he sees him as a great man and will forever be indebted to him for his actions. He also said that there's no love or interest between me and Emma. We're just colleagues. He hasn't responded to any of this. I decided to confide in my parents and brother about my divorce, but they didn't react the way I expected. They're very angry with me and can't see the good deed I did. They only focus on the perceived infidelity, no matter how much I try to convince them that it wasn't cheating. They remain unconvinced and express disgust towards me. They've even suggested I go to confession every day for the ultimately. I believe it's up to God to judge me, not the people on this earth, including my own family. I wasn't planning on returning to this post, but some kind people have asked for an update, so here it is. I really wish I could block all those bitter individuals in the comments. Let me fill you in on my current situation. I'm now living at our community hostel because my lease expired and I don't have the money to pay rent in the capital city. It's a decent place, but it's only a temporary solution. I could have stayed with my parents, but I chose not to since they don't understand my perspective on the divorce. It's official. It might just be the quickest divorce in our country's history, which seems to be my luck. At least I have faith in God to support me. The judge appeared to be quite traditional. It seems like there's not a lot of respect for women these days. He saw my suggestion as cheating and didn't care that I'd helped him get back on his feet. He just said, "You can call it whatever you want, but it's cheating and a breach of your marriage." I tried to explain that my husband had given me permission, but when the judge asked him and his lawyer, they both said he hadn't. Oliver told Emma, I'm an adult, and I can't stop you from doing whatever you want." He then said that he had already warned Emma that he would divorce her if she went through with it. The judge turned to me and asked, "Did Oliver tell Emma this?" I confirmed with my legal representative that Oliver had indeed told Emma this, and it was the truth. The judge then asked, "Why did you proceed with your affair knowing this?" My legal representative and I were caught off guard and didn't respond. The judge then said that the judge said I didn't have to answer because it wasn't relevant to the outcome. He then granted Oliver the divorce, officially ending the marriage as part of the ruling. He awarded me €6,000, which is about $7,000. Oliver was required to pay me within 90 days. Can you believe all of this? Just €6,000 for 4 years of various forms of intimacy, cooking, cleaning, running errands, and taking care of this man when he was ill. If I had worked these jobs instead, it would have amounted to over €200,000. Do I believe I should have received €200,000 from Oliver? No, I do not. However, I received only €6,000. Come on, people, why aren't women valued more for their valuable contributions to marriage? Can the individuals in the comments section answer me that question? This is my last post here because I won't continue arguing with the unkind individuals in this thread. I'm just drained, and you all are unpleasant people. Instead, I'm going to invest all my time and energy into winning Oliver back over the next year. I left him a message on his phone letting him know I won't go on any dates for at least a year, maybe even indefinitely, as I'll be patiently waiting for him to return. I told him he's welcome to come to my new apartment anytime for any type of affection, and provided him with I think that one day I'll get a knock on my door, and it'll be my dream guy Oliver. Ready to give me a hug. We'll live happily ever after, maybe with kids and lots of cuddles. Merry Christmas to everyone. I wish everyone well, even those who don't like me. That was a fun story. Let's move on to another exciting one. Stay tuned. This happened more than 5 years ago, and I'm still not fully over it. Back then, I was 31, and my girlfriend was 29. We'd been together for 3 years, or at least I thought so. We met at a cocktail reception at a local art museum. Neither of us liked modern art, but we were there with friends and hit it off right away. We started dating casually. We eventually decided to exclusively commit to each other because our connection was undeniable. Around a year into our relationship, Lisa brought up the idea of moving in together. I was initially hesitant, expressing that I wasn't quite ready for that step. So, we continued to live separately but spent at least 6 nights a week together. Over the following year, Lisa continued to gently nudge me towards taking that step. The next step was to move in together. I was reluctant at first, but we did it on our 2nd anniversary. Everything seemed to be going well. We had been together for over 2 years, and our intimacy in the bedroom was still vibrant and adventurous. Our relationship was going smoothly. Lisa began dropping hints about marriage and starting a family. I let her know that I could envision that future with her, but I wanted us to use this time living together to evaluate if we were truly ready to take that next step. 3 months into our cohabitation, I got quite a shock. Lisa called me at work to tell me that she had missed her period and might be pregnant. I was surprised since she had been on birth control pills. She assured me that she hadn't missed a single dose, so I attributed it to the small chance of contraceptive failure, which is around 9%. After ending the call with Lisa, I went through a whirlwind of emotions, ranging from fear to excitement. However, the more I thought about it, the happier I was about the idea of becoming a father. On the drive home, I was really excited, and when I got home, I gave Lisa a big hug and kiss to show her how happy I was. She was just as happy as I was. As the weeks passed, Lisa started asking me about our marriage plans. I told her that I wasn't ready for that yet, but I suggested we think about it after the baby was born. She understood, but she still brought up the topic several times a week and told me how much she wanted to be my wife. Over the next few months, we focused on preparing for our child. We transformed our spare bedroom into a great nursery. I didn't hold back on the furniture and fixtures, making sure we were ready for the baby's arrival. Everything was going so well that during Lisa's 7th month of pregnancy, I took the chance to propose. I got down on one knee and Lisa said yes, yes, yes. She said she would marry me, John. We were both really happy. I suggested we have a civil ceremony at the mayor's office the following month, followed by a reception after the baby's birth. She was really excited and agreed. We had a wedding date set, but just a few days before the ceremony, our baby had other ideas. Lisa went into labor, so we rushed to the hospital at 4 a.m. and by 9 a.m., Lisa had given birth to a healthy baby boy. I was there with Lisa in the delivery room, helping with the birth. It went pretty smoothly, but I couldn't help but notice right away that the baby didn't look like me. He had black hair, a dark brown complexion, and looked like he was of Hispanic descent. Both Lisa and I, along with our extended families, have Northern European backgrounds with light hair and fair skin tones. No one in either of our families has Hispanic heritage. When the baby was placed in Lisa's arms, I glanced at her face. Despite her best efforts to appear calm, I could tell she was shocked by the baby's appearance. My heart was racing, but I managed to stay composed, pretending everything was normal. Lisa wanted me to hold the baby, which I did, and tears welled up in my eyes. I cradled the infant and felt an overwhelming sadness, knowing he wasn't biologically mine. Despite my emotions, I handed him back to Lisa and mentioned that I was going out to inform our parents of the exciting news. I went out to the waiting room and told them the news. They all went inside to see Lisa and the baby, while I said I needed to take a short walk to calm down. After all the excitement, I headed over to a small park area by a stream that flowed through the hospital grounds. I completely broke down in tears there. My world felt like it had crumbled around me. I knew that today I would lose both my future wife and the baby I had so dearly hoped for. I spent about 30 minutes crying my eyes out, and then my phone rang. It was my mother. She asked how I was doing, and I told her I was okay. She said, "I understand why you left." I told her the baby wasn't mine. She said, "I know, and I'll stand by you no matter what you decide to do." I went to the restroom to freshen up, and then I came back to the room. When I went back in, only Lisa, her parents, and my mom were there. The baby had been taken to the nursery, and Lisa was understandably tired from the birth. I suggested that we all give her some time to rest, and we left the room. Lisa asked if I could stay with her, but I gently replied, "It's best for you to rest without talking." We all went to the cafeteria and spent a few hours there while Lisa got some rest. When I went back upstairs, I let her parents after spending about half an hour with her. Lisa's parents told me to go in and comfort her. Lisa started talking and said she was happy. She asked if I was happy too. I told her I was happy that she and the baby were healthy. She asked if I was upset about something. I said no, but I wanted to talk to her. She asked what we needed to talk about. I said we needed to talk about the baby. She asked what about the baby. When I told Lisa that the baby isn't mine, she got defensive and said it's your baby. Who else could it be? I challenged her, saying, "You tell me." She got really upset and started crying. I let her cry for about 10 minutes, but it felt like longer. When she finally composed herself, I asked her about the father of the child. Through her tears, she admitted that you're the father. I didn't believe her and asked her again, "Lisa, please don't lie." She fell into a silent day, staring straight ahead. Eventually, she broke the silence, saying, "I'm so sorry, John. I was unfaithful, but I want you to be the baby's father." I ignored her plea and repeated my question, "Who is the father?" Reluctantly, she admitted that her ex, who she'd been with for over 5 years, had come to town 8 months ago. They'd had a brief encounter at our apartment. I stood up and walked over to the window. I looked down at the traffic below and Lisa asked if our relationship was over. I told her it was, and I couldn't trust her again. She started to cry and begged for another chance, but I said it wasn't possible. I told her she needed to tell our parents about this right away. She asked me not to tell them, but I said she had to. I told her, "Lisa, you need to do this now because you won't be coming back to our apartment when you and the baby are." She was discharged tomorrow, and she pleaded with me again, but I just said no and went outside to get our parents. When Lisa's father saw her tear-stained face, he asked what was wrong. I told everyone to take a seat, and they did. Then I told Lisa to tell them what we just discussed. She was so overwhelmed with emotion that she couldn't speak. I explained the situation to our parents, and they all started crying. Lisa's parents were crying, too. I told Lisa's parents that she was going home with them the next day. I'd arranged to have her stuff and the nursery we'd prepared moved to their house. While I was talking to them, Lisa kept crying. Then I turned to my mom and said, "Let her go." Lisa screamed, "John, please don't leave me. I love you and I'm so sorry." So we left. While we were driving away from the hospital, Lisa called and pleaded with me. She said, "Please, John, don't end our relationship like this." I told her, "Lisa, I didn't end our relationship. You did. The trust we had is forever broken, and the person I knew and loved is gone," despite her continued pleas. I remained silent and eventually told her there was nothing more to say. Then I hung up. The next morning, Lisa's father came over with his van, and we loaded all of Lisa's belongings in. I helped him move the nursery into the back and then went to their house to help unload and set up the nursery in one of their spare bedrooms. I was really upset. Lisa's mom asked if there was any way I could change my mind and give her daughter another chance. I told her that I couldn't because I could never trust Lisa again and I would never be able to love the child that was conceived by another man with this. Her father drove me back home, where I spent the next day crying my eyes out. Over the course of the next week, Lisa reached out to me relentlessly, making over 100 calls and sending numerous texts. She professed her love and asked for another chance. Initially, she understood my reluctance to marry her and become a father to her child. Instead, she suggested that we continue dating as we were before. I chose not to respond, and eventually the messages ceased. Undoubtedly, this has been the most challenging period of my life. However, I have no intention of. I do think about Lisa and her son from time to time. I'd even consider meeting him for a beer when he turns 21. I'm grateful for his early arrival, which meant I didn't end up marrying his mother and complicating my life even more. My advice to all men out there is to consider getting a pre-birth paternity test with every pregnancy. It can save you a lot of wasted time and heartache in the long run.